because gasoline fuel does degrade over time, and a lot of people would agree that it's only at its best for around 6 weeks. So in this case, it's always best to check the fuel and remove any bad fuel before it's drawn into the engine. You can see with my fuel that I've just drained here that there's lots of debris at the bottom, along with a lot of moisture. You can see a lot of globules of water down there. And those large reddy brown coloured pieces is fuel that's set hard over time, and it's become a substance very similar to that of dry flaky varnish. Needless to say, this would clog up the fuel pipes and all those little tiny holes inside the carburetor, and the engine just would not run right, if at all. But to be fair, this one is quite a dirty example, and it may not be this bad inside all lawnmowers, but you can see the benefits there of making sure you've got clean fuel inside your fuel tank. And in my experience, this is the cause of most of the problems as to why a lawnmower will not start, particularly in the spring after it's had long winter storage. And this is often overlooked by the general lawnmower owner. In fact, I can tell you that most of the lawnmowers that come to me for repair just need the fuel draining and fresh fuel putting in and running up. And if you can do this yourself, you're going to save yourself time and money. It's not rocket science, and a lot of the time this is what the repair centres are doing behind the scenes. Well, now we know that we may need to drain the fuel and replace it, what's the best way to do so? Well, sometimes, of course, some people turn the mower onto its side and drain it out of the filler. I personally tend not to do that, and one reason for that is I don't want the oil in the engine sump to tip towards the carburetor and fill it full of oil. But the main reason is I want to be a little more thorough with the cleaning, which you'll see shortly, particularly on this type of lawnmower engine. And so the way I would drain the fuel would be different depending on one of the two main types of lawnmower you may have. One may look like this, which is the carburetor attached to the fuel tank, and the other one would look more like this, where the carburetor is hanging lower and is separate from the fuel tank. And we'll take a look at this first. So on this type of lawnmower that has this type of carburetor with a float bowl, I like to remove the fuel pipe from the back of the carburetor and let the fuel drain out that way. And then I remove the float bowl of the carburetor and clean inside there as well. This one is 2 small bolts, it needs a 7mm spanner. But what size spanner you'll need to remove these do vary between brands. But once I've removed the bowl and you take a look inside, you can see that it was well worth taking off. For a start, the fuel coming out of here will most likely be stale if it's been standing. Secondly, if we take a look at the fuel anyway, you can see that big globule of water. If we'd tried to start the engine, of course, without first cleaning the carb bowl, then this would have all been sucked up into the engine and caused further problems anyway. The chances are it just wouldn't start. So now we've got the stale fuel out of both the tank and the carburetor, we can refit the carb bowl. And when we fix the bowl back in place, I place the fuel pipe back onto the back of the carburetor.